So it's recording. Good evening to one and all, and good evening to our speaker, Professor Amareswar Misra. He is the retired professor from Utkal University, Department of Political Science. Sir, I am thankful to you for your, for your consent to this informal invitation. And I always say that academics doesn't believe formal or informal. Anything that is related with student and the development of student is academics. So today, Professor Amareswar Misra, he has agreed to deliberate on this topic, working of Indian Constitution, the static and the dynamics. As the convener, let me introduce Professor Mishra. Now, as I mentioned, that Professor Misra is the retired professor from Utkal University, Department of Political Science. He joined Utkal University as the lecturer in 1972, and he became professor and head of the department in 2008. He was the UGC professor under DRS program in the department from 2009 to 2013. And till now, he is the honorary professor in the department. Another, professor and a knowing face, Professor Sujanaran Misra, he is also connected with us. And it's a matter for pleasure for me that Professor Sujanaran Misra is the student and colleague of Professor Amareswar Misra. Okay, so Professor Amareswar Misra, he has done his matriculation in 1964 and graduation in 1968 from Utkal University, and post-graduation in Political Science Department in 1970 from that Utkal University, PhD in Political Science from Utkal University. And his specialization is the urban government and administration, comparative politics, and political sociology. He has published 4 books. He has edited 2 books. He is the editor of Utkal Journal of Political Science. He has written 9 monographs on social capital, more than 40 research articles, both in national and international journal. He has written more than 20 articles as the part of edited book. He has produced 15 PhD scholars, 40 MPhil scholars. He has participated in international conference in the USA, United States of America, South Africa, Sweden, France during 1990 to 2001. And he has presented and chaired a number of sessions in those seminars. He has done with 2 projects of Government of Odisha. He is the honorary director of International Project on Democracy and Social Capital, and that was funded by SAREC Sweden. He has got 2 fellowship, UGC Research Fellowship in 1977 to 81, and he was the research associate in Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Simla, and he is the member of American Studies Center, Hyderabad. He is the member of Indian Political Science Association and Odisha Political Science Association. In fact, he is the president of Odisha Political Science Association today. In addition to teaching, he was the associate advisor, Utkal University Student Union. He is the vice president of Utkal University Athletic Club. He is the director of Students Welfare, Utkal University, deputy registrar and state officer of Utkal University. He has been honored by Bhubaneswar Cultural Association, and so far as these other awards, are concerned, he is the literary champion. He stood first in inter-college and ODI debate and SCS College Puri. He is the champion in the table tennis, etc. So this is a brief introduction of the speaker. And let me, introduce the topic. And let me say that I have not got any, write-up from the speaker today. Whatever, I got the idea of what he's going to speak. Actually, while talking with him, in today's morning. So the title of his deliberation or the title of his discussion is that working of Indian Constitution, the statics and the dynamics. Statics means lack in movement, action or change, and dynamics means full of energy, idea and active. Now, whether the Indian Constitution is working actively or Indian Constitution has become passive, right? Or can we say that there is a success, the way Atul Kohli says success of Indian democracy. So can we say that there is a success of Indian Constitution, or that Indian Constitution is a failure, right? So today, in fact, the speaker will hold this position. In fact, he will do a critique to the critique of Indian Constitution, right? So he will adopt a positive approach to the operation of Indian constitutional system. And though he knows there are lots of criticism are there against the Indian Constitution, but the speaker doesn't agree with those constitutions. So from 1950 till now, the way Constitution holds the nation tightly, for the speaker, it has its own success story. So in spite of many challenges, criticism, the Constitution has operated well, which has preserved the basic system till date. So on this, statements, the speaker is going to frame his logic, and the speaker will let us know the success of Indian Constitution, and those who think that Indian Constitution has failed us. Today's speaker will address the concern of those those individuals. So I think this talk is going to be very interesting. It is all about critiquing the critique of Indian Constitution. So with this short introduction to this topic, in fact it was not introduction, I hope that you got a kind of sense. Let me once again welcome Professor Amareswar Misra, and let me request him to start his deliberation on this topic. Yes, sir, you may continue right now. You have to unmute, sir. Sir, you have to unmute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good evening to all. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I welcome Surya, who happens to be my younger brother as well, and a colleague. Since 1964, we are very close. And as you well said, that working of the Indian Constitution to me is a success story. And it's my pleasure to be associated in this academic exercise. I am thankful particularly to Dr. Himanshu for this commendable academic exercise and initiative. My today's talk aims at providing some food for thought. I have made a positive approach to the problem that is working of the Indian Constitution. We find a number of issues, challenges in form of its working. But the Constitution has not failed in regulating them. Now, if you look to the problems, which you may call the challenges, the stresses on the functioning of the Constitution, look at the corruption, eradication of corruption, appointment of Lokpal. We are yet to achieve that one. Procedure of appointment of the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court are being delayed. Disruption, or you may say, erratic role of opposition, and we find political parties are growing, but we do not have, in real sense, a party system. And what we find, unnecessarily, the courts are being dragged to issues which they are not expected to deal with. So what I find, if you look to reservation policy, that is again a controversy that is going on, breaching the 50% of reservation ceiling, action which are violative of basic principles, summoning a person by the police without having any crime registration against him and detaining him is also we find there, and setting up a national judicial infrastructure corporation, steps against criminalization of politics, misinterpretation of secularism, caste-based census, right to privacy, judicial activism, uniform civil code, Jammu and Kashmir issue. So what not? Problems are there, challenges are there, but then we find we exist as a democracy, largest democracy. Since 1950, the Constitution has preserved our basics. Now, before I come to my deliberation, let me draw your attention. Very recently, you find the present Chief Justice of India, N.V. Raman, indicated to non-performance of bureaucracy and enactment of laws without foresight. He pointed out to low number of judges, 20 per million, is unable to improve the functioning of the judiciary. Now, he was worried as recruited persons are not playing their roles as desired. Now, I quote him, he said, if the legislature passes a law with clarity of thought, foresight, and scope of, with the people's welfare in mind, the scope of legislation will be minimized. Now, deliberate inaction by the governments, despite judicial pronouncements, are not good for the health of democracy. Executive also willingly transferring burden of decision making to the courts. He said, there is misuse of the PIL, public interest litigation, which is meant for the downtrodden and voiceless people. So if you look to the comments, the views of the present Chief Justice of India, probably you would feel that the Constitution fails. Now, when I talk about working of the Constitution, I definitely speak about its functioning. And you know it has started functioning since its enforcement, that is 26 January 1950. And all of you know, Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is a written document. It is not one but many documents. Now, how it is many documents? Because I am speaking or deliver my talk in a way so that students should get more benefits than my colleagues. My colleagues are very well read. They are aware of many things, but let there be clarity with the students. How it is many documents? Because you know, if you look to the sources of the Constitution, they are multifaceted sources. Now, Government of India Act 1858, Indian Councils Act of 1861, 1891 and 1909, Government of India Acts 1919 and 1935, the various conventions, foreign constitutions like UK, USA, Ireland, Germany, Canada, USSR, etc. So enactments of British Raj, British rule, and prevailing customs, conventions, traditions, all these, along with existing constitution of different world, have contributed immensely towards the drafting of Indian Constitution. So, when you look to our Constitution, it is a document of documents. It is composed of both formal and informal rules and laws. Question comes, if it is a document, how does it work or function? Document is a dead letter. So someone is there to make it functional. So who makes it functional? Obviously the answer is the political recruits, both the ruling and the opposition, and the judiciary or judicial interpretation. So I am very, very emphatic on these two. Political recruits, persons those who play a role within and outside the system, political system, and judiciary as an independent integrated body with its own interpretation have made our constitution more functional. So political recruitment is a need to make the constitution operational or functional. Then the question arises, when recruitment happens? When political recruitment happens, the answer would be at the maturity of political socialization. At the maturity of political socialization. Friends, it is well said that political recruitment starts when political socialization leaves off. Political recruitment starts when political socialization leaves off. All of you know, political socialization or recruitment are never-ending processes. My point is, both these processes help working our constitution. And as they are never-ending, please remember, they are going continuous processes. Because of that, political roles are available to keep the constitution in working order. Political roles are available to keep the constitution in working order. And the constitutional culture is maintained, perpetuated, and transmitted from one generation to the other, which is very, very essential for the functioning of the system itself. Now, roles who play within the political system and outside contribute towards the working of the constitution in a very, very positive way. On the other hand, our Indian constitution itself, as you know, is the product of persons who played their role in the Constituent Assembly, that is in the drafting, by drafting the constitution. Now left to itself, constitution functions as a system and it is fundamental to state administration. Left to itself, constitution functions as a system and it is fundamental to state administration or state governance. Then the question arises, how it is a system? Because it possesses all the qualities of a person, all the qualities of a system. For example, it works within the boundary of the nation, that is India, geographical boundary. It is composed of different parts. As you know, part 1 to part 22 of our constitution, 395 articles, 12 schedules, all these are the parts. And all these parts, articles, schedules are interlinked, interconnected and interdependent. So you cannot just read one part and leave the other part and get the understanding. They are fully interconnected and in interaction. As a system, the Constitution of India includes different subsystems as well, like the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, and other constitutional bodies. These subsystems always work in interaction with each other and the constitution as a whole. So if you go through, you will find Constitution of India exists and functions within the environment. It works in relation to the socio-economic, political, and cultural circumstances that exist around it. Because it is an open system, in a democratic system, it is an open system, it is influenced by it and also influences the environment. Now, please remember here, when we find a constitution, the environment contributes a lot in formulating, in drafting, in making a constitution. So, on the other hand, Constitution of India, as I told you, is fundamental to the governance of our country. Now the question arises, how? How it is fundamental? Because precisely speaking, through its working, the Constitution has ensured the basic nature of our polity. It has ensured the basic nature of our polity and the basic objectives which governance would strive, which towards governance would strive. Let me now draw your attention to the caption of my talk. My caption has already been indicated, working of the Indian Constitution, the statics and the dynamics. Well, Himanshu has referred to it. Now, statics to me are the basic nature. Or you can say the features. Whereas, dynamics are the objectives. I feel the Constitution has worked successfully in maintaining the basics and fulfilling the objectives. It has worked successfully in maintaining the basics and fulfilling the objectives. Now the question comes, where in the Constitution you look at them? Answer is, you find it in the preamble. And various events and issues that have contributed towards securing them. So primarily you locate it in the preamble and various events, issues that have contributed towards securing them. In other words, the legislative enactments and judicial interpretation, along with various major movements, have ensured them. Very well. That must be borne in mind. Now, let us look at the preamble. All of you know, today, preamble is an integral part of our Constitution. I refer to Kesavanand Bharati case, 1973. When we were students, my professor, late lamented Professor Sriram Chandra Das, always saying that preamble is the preface that goes before the Constitution. It does not constitute a part of the Constitution. Friends, now there is a great change. You find first the dynamism here, that because of the interpretation of the Supreme Court, we could see preamble has been considered as an integral part of the Constitution. So not from Article 1, start with the preamble. And you know, preamble is considered as the mirror of our Constitution. It is vital to the nature and operation of our state. It is the keynote to the Constitution. Here I may refer to Justice Madhavkar in the case of Sajan Singh versus State of Rajasthan, 1965, where it is being observed, preamble had the stamp of deep deliberation marked by precision. Again, I repeat, preamble had the stamp of deep deliberation and marked by precision. You might not be knowing that the Constituent Assembly held 11 sessions covering 1,925 days, out of which 114 days were devoted to consideration of the draft constitution. So look at the figure, what much of exercise they made. For that, the framers had attached special significance to it, the preamble. In fact, the preamble did contain the sentiments expressed by Nehru's Nehru's objective resolution, as all of you know, that is moved in December 1946. Now, Justice Jagmohan Reddy, in the same case, observed preamble is properly restored to where there are doubts and ambiguities upon the words of the enacting part. Please look at it very carefully. Preamble is resorted to where there are doubts and ambiguities from the words of the enacting parts. So when you are going to execute the constitutional law, rules, regulation, practices, then any doubt occurs, you are to resort to the preamble. He also remarked, preamble is a solemn promulgation of a fundamental fact vital to the character and operation of the government. It is a solemn promulgation of a fundamental fact vital to the character and operation of the government. In that context, I also refer to Justice Silat and Justice Grover, who then said, preamble embodies the great purposes, objectives, and the policy underlying its way into existence. That is sovereign, democratic, republic, etc. The constitution makers gave to the preamble the people the pride of place. So they observed very carefully. They said it embodied in a solemn form all the ideals and aspirations for which the country had struggled. For which the country had struggled. The former Chief Justice of India, M. Hidayatullah, points out, preamble is the soul of our constitution, which lays down the pattern of our political society, Now, all these observations briefly indicate why preamble is significant. And you can deduce that the preamble is important because it states the source of authority. What is the source of authority? We the people. Look to the starting point. We the people. Secondly, it states when the constitution was adopted and enacted. Thirdly, it states the nature of polity which we are to adopt. Nature of polity. That is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. And all of you know, socialist and secular were not there in the original constitution. It is being adopted by 42nd Amendment Act 1976. Now, when all this happened, there were a lot of criticisms as well. Was there any need of amending the preamble, inducing socials and secular? Was India not secular, socialist before that? Now, yes, rightly they criticized. Now, for me, and for many of our judicial interpretations, I find judges have agreed that if you look to our constitution, this reminds me, Dr. Ambedkar, I was speaking to Himanshu when we were interacting, that he, while handing over the constitution, handing over the constitution, said that the constitution is good or bad, future will tell. Because if it is with good people, then it functions well. If it is with bad people, it will function bad. I don't know that. So it is up to you. How do you handle? How do you handle? How do you interpret? How do you implement? That is the big question. Now, if you look to the nature of the polity, at the outset, sovereignty is a more important concern. Friends, when globalization concept came, many people criticized that globalization probably has but
Sir, we cannot listen you, I think. So can anyone listen to the speaker?
No, sir. We are unable to hear.
No, sir.
Sir, you have to unmute Surya, sir.
What happened, Himanshu?
I don't know. I think there is some problem from his side. Maybe he's facing some network problem.
Sir, you are not audible. Amaro.
I think. Sir, you are not audible.
Telephone le contact karo.
The network problem कौन
से जानी पारथुवे कि नहीं
जानी पार नथिबे सर
से कहि चलथिबे ना
हाँ सडनली एते नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम हवा कथा न
नहीं एते समय भी हवा कथा नुहे
हाँ
तांका लैंडलाइन अछि ना नहीं
मो पाखरे तांकर मोबाइल नंबर टा अछि
नहीं लैंडलाइन नंबर मु कहि देबी जे 2432182
तांकर को एसटीडी कोड टा केते सर
0674
0674 243 2187
182
182 No one is lifting the call.
नहीं रिंग होची
Yeah.
हिदायतुल्ला विषय कहउथला बेलटू कटलानी
Now I think I connected with him, so he is joining us soon.
ओके कनेक्ट है परला
Sir, he is joining. He is joining. So I think we have to wait for 1 or 2 minutes.
No, he should remember that when
Yeah.
sir नमस्कार आपण जेतोळे कहउतले हिदायतुल्ला विषय जेतोळे कहउतले सहीट कटि गला प्रिएम्बल और हिदायतुल्ला
I think again he is facing the network problem. I think in Bhubaneswar there should not have any network problem. For the first time, I think I'm facing such problem, such a huge problem. And network problem is not supposed to be linger like this. There is problem, but again, you generally be connected. Okay. Sir, yes, you can start. Surya sir.
Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are audible. आपण जेतेबळे preamble relating to Hidayatullah statement कहूते सेट कोटिए.
I will start from that. I will start from that.
आगे.
So let me refer again to the former Chief Justice of India, M. Hidayatullah, who points out preamble is the soul of our constitution, which lays down the pattern of our political society. Now, when you look to all these observations that indicate why the preamble is significant, we can deduce that preamble is important because it states the source of authority with the people. It states when the constitution was adopted, 26 November 1949. It states the nature of polity which we are to adopt. That is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. And all of you know that socialist, secular, these two terms were not in the original constitution. It was being included after the 42nd Amendment Act, that is in 1976. So my point is that when such amendments were being made, many of the scholars criticized that was it necessary to amend the preamble? Was India not secular? There was no socialistic pattern in India before that? Friends, these comments are most welcome because if I correctly remember, many of the judicial interpretations say that our constitution is so huge and within the ambit we can have many things without altering or amending it. Point is that even within that framework, we can do many things. Judges say that it all depends how do you work, how you interpret. That is very important. Not that we amend again and again. We are amending always. Not necessary. We can do within that. So, before coming to anything, when I look to these nature of polity, look at sovereignty as a concept. Now, all of you know, when globalization was there, when it was being welcomed, when it is being adopted, I do remember in my gallery at the Department of Political Science, Surya may back me out, that the then speaker, late lamented Ravi Rai, was addressing the gallery. And he criticized globalization as a concept and the government also. I told him privately, of course not in the meeting, sir, you are there, you allowed there in the parliament, but here you criticize and you say the youth would arouse to the situation. Is it possible? If the parliamentarians there do not object, they do not create any situation to oppose it, how can you ask the youth to be with you? So the point is, in fact, sovereignty is not being taken away because of globalization. Yes, we have given economic liberation. Economic sovereignty, if you say, that we have allowed. It is no question of any encroachment. So through globalization, not our national sovereignty is being affected. Now here, other things are very difficult. Time is very short, but I will just point out some few important areas where controversies are there, but we need understanding. Now look to the concept of socialist. Now, intention of the constitution to bring about socialism, if you look, socialist in the preamble related to, if I refer to D.D. Basu, who says social justice is that is ending poverty, ignorance and inequality of opportunity. In fact, as per the Awadi session of Congress in 1954, it regards the Nehruvian socialistic pattern of society, not of Marxian socialism and not of Indira Gandhi's propagandistic socialism like Garib Hatao slogan. The Supreme Court of India itself made it very clear. The term socialist clear in D.S. Nakar versus Union of India 1983. I refer to D.S. Nakar versus Union of India 1983. Justice D.A. Desai observed very clearly it is to eliminate inequality in income and status and standards of life. Look, social justice is being interpreted by the court. It is to eliminate inequality in income and status and standards of life. So the basic features of socialism, according to Justice Desai, is to provide a decent standard of living to working class and especially provide security from the cradle to grave. From cradle to the grave. Now, what I meant to say that when we talk about social justice, actually the target is the downtrodden people, the poverty striking people, upliftment of the poor community. So that they must be brought up. That was the point. So we are thinking in terms of uplifting and we are having a reservation for those people. But then others get the benefit of that. So who is to be blamed? Is the constitution or the people, those in charge of executing it, or the persons, those who are implementing it at the base level? Very recently, as I was referring to the present Chief Justice, he said, if Tahsildar doesn't do his work, the Thana in charge of doesn't do his work, who is to be blamed? Everything would go to the court. Public interest litigation will be used for personal interest. That was his question. Then you come to secular. That is a very important issue. Secularism. India is a secular country. Now, explaining the term, the statement of object and reason stated to spell out the high ideas of socialism, secularism, and the integrity of the nation, it is necessary to give these terms a real meaning so as to enable these to promote public goods. Public goods promotes public good or public justice. In the case of Jayuddin Gulamuddin Bukhari versus Brisbane Ramdas Mehra and brothers, Justice Desai, I observe, explained the meaning of the term secular, where he says, the secular state rising above all differences of religion attempts to secure the good of all its citizens, irrespective of their religious beliefs and practices. It is neutral or impartial in extending its benefits to the citizens of all castes and creeds. So Maitland has said that such a state has to ensure through its laws that the existence or exercise of political or civil rights or the right to capacity to occupy any office or position under it or to perform any public duty which is being connected with it does not depend on the profession or the practice of any particular religion. So religion is something different. Religion and politics are to be separated. Religion is not a religion like Hindu, Muslim, Islam, not that. Everything has its own religion. That is a different type of interpretation. So here, if you look to Justice Gajendra also, he says the term secular means equality of rights to all the citizens with their religion completely irrelevant to that matter. In his own words, the state does not owe loyalty to any of the particular religion as such. It gives equal freedom to all religions. So if you try to analyze secularism in Indian context, what do you find? the right of citizens to follow any religion, separation of politics and religion, equal respect to all religions by the state, and the state's neutrality in respect of all religions. So friends, would you tell me that our constitution has failed in ensuring secularism? Whatever may be, there is erratic or some stray cases of infighting between religious people. So in case of St. Xavier's College Society versus the state of Gujarat, 1975, the Supreme Court admitted that though the constitution does not use the term the secular state, yet it does not mean that framers of the constitution did not want to establish such a state. So we have to go to the spirit. The spirit is very important. The Indian constitution, as he observes, does not, unlike the United States, subscribe to the principles of non-interference of state in religious organization. But it remains secular as it strives to respect all religions equally, the equality being understood in a substantive sense. So not that we are intervening, interfering, interrupting the religious base, the religious faith, the religious attitudes, religious practices, nothing of that sort. So therefore, secularism in India is well protected by the practice of our own constitution. Constitution has given protection to us. So if you look to democratic, this term was not used in the objectives resolutions. Please remember here, this term was never used in the objective resolutions of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And democracy as a word, you would never find in any of the articles of the Constitution if you read Article 1 to Article 395. If you go through all the articles, nowhere the term democracy is there. But you would find it only in the preamble that India is democratic. That is there. So the term here implies the basics, the features, the qualities of democracy, like universal right of franchise, free and fair election, periodic elections, accountability, election at all levels of governance, and equal participation all in the polity. All these things are being there. You can deduce it from, and that it is being democratic. But again here I warn you, when you look to the critics, they say that real democracy is not there in India. Why do they say so? One thing comes to my mind, that well, so far the structures are concerned, that is democracy. But when you look to the functional aspect of the structure, democracy is not being adopted. Right from the political party up to any organization, governmental structures, the way they act, it shows that democracy has not been accepted as a way of life. In our behavior, we are not democrats. That is to be inducted. If you look to Justice Matthew in Kesavan Bharati case, he had observed the concept of democracy as visualized by the Constitution presupposes the representation of people in the Parliament and the state legislatures by the method of election. So election is being emphasized. Free and fair election. Free and fair election. So many reforms have been made. Thanks to T.N. Sashan, who has adopted reformation. Before him, nobody could act like that, though the law provided. So it is a question of the man who plays the role. Who is implementing it? How he does it? So republic, as you know, India is republic, it means head of the state. That the president is not hereditary. It's not a hereditary position that any citizen can aspire to be the president of India. So therefore, when you analyze the nature of the polity, starting sovereignty concept, socialist, secular, democratic republic, through its working, Indian constitution has not failed in ensuring that. So how then you say it's a huge country? You cannot just feel how people are being tagged. So as I told you, it also states the objectives towards which the constitution was to strive. That is justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief and worship, equality of status and opportunity, fraternity, assuming the dignity of the individual, unity and integrity, which was not there in original in the Indian Constitution, but that is again added in the 47th Amendment Act. So while I was teaching in the classroom long years back, I have to correct Himanshu here. In fact, I retired as a professor in 2008, but I became professor since 2005-6 like that. So my point is that then when I was analyzing the concepts as a student, what objects we have? Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, unity and integrity. You might have come across in the roadside, there is written Kashmir to Kanyakumari, India is one. Kashmir to Kanyakumari, India is one. As if India is not one. Why this slogan was there? That's because disruption. That's because you might be knowing, before India was finally partitioned in 1947, before that 6 times it was being partitioned. So partition happened. Akhanda Bharat, if you go, the integrated India, that those who are our neighbors, they are within us, and we say they are part of India. So my point is, when you look to justice, in social sense, it implies absence of all distinctions. They are to be treated as an equal member of the society. In the economic sense, it implies absence of economic exploitation. None to be so poor that sells himself off. He would sell as a laborer. Labor is to purchase. No. None are to be so rich that he enjoys the power over the lives of others. It indicates to absence of economic disparities, employment for all, fulfillment of basic needs of each and all. In political sense, it implies franchise for all. It is equal participation of all in the offices of government with rights, liberties and freedoms. So therefore, if you go to the objectives one by one, liberty by expression, thought, etc. I will not go to the details, equality, concepts, all these you know. But my submission is that when you look to the working or function of the Constitution, for last 72 years, through its working, Constitution has preserved, protected, enforced all the nature and objectives to a large extent. To a large extent. Pertinent question is, how could it be possible? To me personally, Constitution has achieved it by inducting constitutionalism in the minds of the rulers and the subjects. That is government and the citizens. And all of you know what is constitutionalism. It implies adherence to the provisions, principles, rules of the Constitution. Both political roles and citizens' roles are to be performed as per the supreme law of the land. Here, supremacy of law is recognized and respected, and practice of constitutionalism has established rule of law in India. So it stands basically for limited government. And again here I refer to the views of our present Chief Justice. He says that all these three wings of government must know their Lakshmana Rekha, the limitation. They should not supersede the other. When legislature enacts, it must look to the welfare of the people. It must look to the benefit of the people. It must be a sensible legislation so that all would accept. Acceptable. Acceptability is very important. And judiciary must judge everything as per the circumstances. As you know, I was referring to public interest litigation, which has widened the functioning of the judiciary. So Constitution stands as the panacea to any kind of violation of law, either by the government or by the governed. Friends, political culture of India is maintained and perpetuated because of working of the Constitution. There is effective working due to functioning of the legislature and executive and the judiciary. You may say that there are lapses. Laws have lapses, functions have lapses. But lapses are not to be quoted as examples. But we must see that to a large extent they function. So Constitution has become more flexible. Article 368, look, we have amended our Constitution for about 100 times. And there further amendment be there. So Constitution has become more flexible. Consequently, new challenges are being regulated. You look, COVID has disrupted your natural rights, but the Constitution has protected your fundamental rights. The Constitution has protected your fundamental rights. In other words, fundamental duties have been included in the Constitution. Beforehand, it was not there. So please remember here, none of our rights are absolute. All are limited. Judiciary as an independent and integrated body is playing a substantial role that maintains a balance in state governance or state administration. So judiciary has been activated mostly because of, as I said, PIL. Friends, I feel there is no judicial activism. There is no judicial activism. Rather, there is an activated judiciary. There is an activated judiciary. There is no judicial activism. Why do I say? Because judges are acting within the framework of constitutional provisions and the enacted laws. Political representation and leadership formation have been ascertained due to regular conduct of elections. Now, leadership is a very important factor. Leadership is a very important factor. Leadership building is a necessity to lead the nation, to lead the government, to lead the people. That is being ascertained. So political representation and leadership, you don't have these political representation or leadership unless you have elections, regularly elections are being conducted. As such, greater political participation is being also ensured. You know, how increase, there is increase in percentage of voting. So question is, because of the working of the Constitution, multiculturalism is well preserved. That is another essence. Multiculturalism is a very, very important issue. But people belong to having different culture, are living together. Their interests are being protected and preserved. We are talking about interstate, central-state relationship. And previously we were just thinking about that Indian Constitution. If you look that it is partly federal, partly unitary. Now what do you find? Of everything, now we are in the way of having cooperative federalism. Because states have acquired their own identity. It is due to political parties who rule over states do not belong to the center. Center has its own political parties, they are ruling different political parties, and the regional political parties are ruling over. So they are asserting themselves, their interests. So it is a question of cooperative federalism, cooperation. Navin Patnaik as Chief Minister is being well recognized by the country, by the Prime Minister. Why? It is because of his contribution. Look to West Bengal issue. How the Chief Minister ascertaining? Well, differences are there, but cooperation is there. And presently, when you look to the address of the Prime Minister in the Chief Ministers and Chief Justice meet after 6 years, what is that? That must be borne in mind. How we are to cooperate and see, look to the progress of the country. So now how do you find priority of directive principles over fundamental rights may be considered as a milestone in achieving social justice and in enacting welfare policies. So now the directive principles of policy has a priority. Again, you look to the converting right to property to a legal right, helps in uplifting the poor. Policies like privatization, as I told, industrialization, modernization have widened the socio-economic and political growth. Globalization, as I said, may contribute to realize in future a world government, a world parliament, and a global village. That is the purpose. So, if you look to the entire functioning of the constitution, the way India is moving, think about the right to information, right to privacy, protection of public interest, granting constitutional status to local governments, making Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh and as union territories. All these are major or vital consequences or contribution of the work of the Indian Constitution. So move to achieve uniform civil code is a very important issue. Uniform civil code till now we failed to achieve. Why? That is a necessary need. All have their personal laws, no doubt. Let us respect them. But the uniform civil code will bring more equality. That is a very important area. So if you look to all these things, question may arise. Looking to the criticisms, looking to the critics, we can have better functioning of the constitution by ensuring greater participation of informal voluntary organizations, effective political socialization of the youth, trust building between government and the people, trust building between the agencies of the government, adopting functional democracy in addition to structural ones, inducting moral values, building a vibrant civil society, creating a self-sacrificing community. I can go through like this, saying what can be our suggestions. But we must see that how the Constitution has operated in a way that since 1950 till date, 2022, India stands. Look at the national policies and international policies. International issues, national issues. Well handled. Starting from the first Prime Minister of India till now, we have seen they have worked within the boundary of the Constitution. Sometimes people, when I was delivering talks in different areas, different places, they said, sir, probably you are supporting Bharatiya Janata Party. But look, many people said Bharatiya Janata Party is a non-secular. But when Vajpayee became the Prime Minister and you find the 2 terms of Modi ji, do you find that they have overthrown your constitution? Are they not working within the framework of the constitution? Many people say that they are promoting Hindutva. Well, that is different. Hindutva is not a concept of the government. It is a concept of a particular specific group. Groups are allowed to promote any ism they like, practice any ism they like, accept any ideology they like. But Constitution is not concerned with that. Constitution provides the base in equal terms. It allows you, others as well. So don't just criticize and say that the Constitution will go to the dustbin. If you do dustbin, then a revolution necessary. You have to overthrow. Rewriting a Constitution, if I correctly remember, Professor Siramchandra has told us in the class that you cannot convene a Constituent Assembly because there is no provision in the Constitution to convene a new Constituent Assembly. So only a Constituent Assembly can rewrite a Constitution. So therefore, I submit before you that my approach is positive, irrespective of the challenge, criticisms. I feel our Constitution is successful. Thank you all.
So thank you, Professor Misra. I mean, in a negative situation, to become positive, it is required. But the person who is having the positive approach, that person must also understand the negative side as well. And I hope that Professor Misra has better understand the negative side of Indian Constitution. Whether Constitution has failed us or we have failed the Constitution, there are debates, and every debate is unending debates. I can remember Professor Kasinath, and his first sentence was on Indian Constitution that it is a good constitution for bad people and it is a bad constitution for good people. Right. I think Professor Misra must clarify what this statement is all about. I don't have any hesitation to accept that we have failed our Constitution, we have failed Indian Constitution. But the only problem what I have, that why Indian Constitution is not failing those who are failing Indian Constitution. Why Indian Constitution is failing those, why Indian Constitution is not failing those who are failing Indian Constitution. Why
Himanshu, yeah. You should be very clear in putting a question. I can clarify it if I just catch what directly wants to, what is the question? I am here to catch you.
No, it's not a question actually. I am actually worried about that why Indian Constitution is not failing those who are failing Indian Constitution. Those who are failing Indian Constitution, what are the provisions in the Indian Constitution to fail them so that Indian Constitution will be in the hand of good people and it will give us a very good life, good society, good future. This is my concern.
To be very, very precise, you must look to the process through which we get our representatives. Now, the representatives, they really play a role in managing governance and managing the state administration. Now, these representatives come through the election. Political parties are the base. You know, in India, political parties have their extra constitutional growth. Constitution is silent about political parties. They have framed their own laws, everything belongs to them. But my point is, when the political parties themselves would put candidates, those who are honest, dedicated, those who are self-sacrificing, then only you would have good people who would manage your governance well. And the constitution would better operate in their hands.
I understand that. I understand it, sir. No doubt we are following the process of constitution. But important thing is that we need to understand the spirit of constitution. That spirit, acceptance and realization of that spirit while following the process of constitution is very much required. But then how to ensure it? And I can say that, different political parties, they use, misuse and abuse the constitution and with the constitutional principles as well.
I agree. I completely agree.
What to do with it? I mean, if such people are there, you can say that our constitution is good, but I will say that it is good, no doubt, but it is with the bad individual, bad people. And when a good thing is in the hand of bad people, then that good things, it loses its own, relevance, and it produces many problems.
Now you are right, but then there is a scope of doing that. Political parties, we can have laws, we can have rules, regulations, but to be abide by that is very important. Law abiding concept is very important. Political obligation is a very important concept. Then my point is that when we think about a better functioning of the constitution and good functioning of the constitution, we must have good people to play a role. And look at the executive and legislature and the judiciary will not talk about because I will be subject to contempt of court. But I can talk about the executive and the legislature. They also sometimes they are guided by other forces than by the constitutional provisions. That is a very important issue. That must be taken care of. That they are guided by other forces, not by the constitutional law. Sometimes. So that is the problem there, inherent problem. So you are helpless, I am also helpless.
I understand there are so many vested interests. We are living in a new liberal society. There is economy, there are compulsion, and followed by the constitutional value. It is also not feasible and possible by different governments. I understand, but I think these are not my questions actually. I am actually worried about everything. So we don't have any other option. We have to be positive. However, that doesn't mean that there is no negativities. So now I welcome Professor Sujanaran Mishra. He is the student of Professor Amareswar Misra. At the same time, he is the colleague of Professor Amareswar, Misra. Now I request him to say something on this talk, because he is also very good on Indian politics.
Well, first of all, I must thank my senior colleague, Mishra, the functioning of the Constitution from a perfect angle. He has discussed about the institution and instruments, and also threw some light on instrumentalities, that is, from the point of view of judiciary. Well, for me, when Himanshu talked about the statement of K.A. Narayanan on 25th of January 2002, which was his last Republic Day address to the country, because every president addresses on the eve of Republic Day. He said, the Constitution has not failed us, but we have failed the Constitution. Probably Himanshu remembers that quotable quote since that day, and it was when a good government under Vajpayee was in the saddle. Well, when you look to a constitution, Indian constitution is an enacted one. The best virtues of many constitutions have been incorporated into our constitutional instruments. Well, you must look to the timing of the preparation of the constitution or making of the constitution. In 1921, one American judge, Supreme Court judge, Charles Lewin Hughes, who became subsequently the Chief Justice of America, he said, we are living under a constitution and the Constitution is that what the judges say it is. That factor is not available here. Because if you look at our constitutional functioning, as rightly Professor Misra has said, on different occasions, he has referred to spirit of the Constitution written by Justice Selat. He has looked into H.M. Sirvai's Constitution, P.B. Gajendra Gadkar's Constitutional Observations, and Sajan Singh case. But the issue is, when you look at a constitution, the door is definitely the preamble. It was unfortunate that when we were students, we were deprived of the concept that preamble is not a part of the constitution, because that was the political goal of the society. It was in 1960, for the first time in the Berubari case, the Supreme Court observed, of course, peripherally, that preamble cannot be said to be outside the framework of the Constitution, and rightly Professor Misra has referred to the 1973 judgment, the Kesavananda Bharati case, where preamble was accepted as a part and parcel of the Constitution. The parcel word was used. So when you look to the timing of the making of the Constitution, that between 1947 to 49, what was the period? See, in 1941, when Atlantic Charter was announced, that we are not going to make this earth only safe for democracy, but for a functional democracy. Atlantic Charter, the big four, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, the wartime prime minister, Joseph Stalin, the Soviet chief, and Chiang Kai-shek, the Chinese leader. They signed the document. They said that in future will provide freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of worship, then freedom from want and freedom from fear. These four are the fulcrums of making of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The 30-articled Universal Declaration have been incorporated into our Constitution in 25 areas. Part 3 of the Constitution, which is right against the state, and Part 4 of the Constitution, which is duty of the state, they ensemble 25 articles of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So our Constitution has adhered to the international commitment and also the social dynamics. Rightly, when analyzing the preamble to the Indian Constitution, Professor Misra has explained everything in great detail. But my point here is that you must look to the beauty of the Constitution. We are not given liberty, equality, and fraternity priority over justice. Our Constitution's priority is justice, not liberty, equality, and fraternity. And within that concept of justice, we have given priority to social justice, not to economic and political justice. So, Indian Constitution stands above all other enacted constitutions because of this prioritization. That is why on 25th of January 1950, the penultimate day of the Constitution making and coming into force, Dr. Ambedkar said, from tomorrow, we will be politically equal, but unfortunately, we will be socially and economically unequal. And if this social and economic inequality persists and doesn't evaporate, then it will create problems for the Constitution, for its functioning, its working. So since that day, with plethora of laws and 3-digit amendments to the Indian Constitution, we have tried to bring justice to the forefront. And we are not a judgment constitution, but judgment-made constitution. Judgments have come in the way wherever there is some kind of a stalemate conditions in our Constitution. You see, till 1971, the judiciary was conservative, looking to the philosophy of the Constitution from one angle. From 1971, the judiciary looked at the political concern of the country. So the judiciary versus legislature concept came. And in 1973, a curtain was drawn after the supersession of judges. Basic structure, doctrine was evolved to just make an understanding between the judiciary and legislature. But they never defined what is judicial structure. In course of time, judicial structure evolved, like the Justice Ahmadi's judgment in the case of secular case about Babri Masjid episode, and secularism became a basic structure of the constitution, or Sabharwal's judgment in 2007 when he said that judicial review is a basic structure of the Indian constitution. See, today we have got 284 laws incorporated into Part 9 of the Constitution, which was inserted into the Constitution in the first amendment to the Indian Constitution, just to accommodate the end of the feudal laws of the country or feudal practices of the country. Only 14 laws were allowed. Now we have incorporated 284 laws, keeping it away from the purview of the judiciary. But that judgment says in 2007, 11th of January 2007 precisely, Sabharwal's judgment, and it was judicial review judgment that till 24th of April 1973, that is Kesavananda Bharati case, whatever has been done, incorporating laws into the ninth schedule, we are not opening those cases. But after 24th of April 1973, any entry into the ninth schedule is open for judicial scrutiny. Imagine, in the Minerva Mills case, the basic structure theory was challenged. And in the Sabharwal's judgment, judicial review has opened the keynote. So in the functioning of our constitution, we have got judiciary and judicial challenges. Rightly, Professor Misra has said, we don't have a judicial activism, but we have an activated judiciary. That judiciary has become, ever since the Matthew judgment or P.N. Bhagwati's observation or Justice Krishna Iyer's judgments, we find that judiciary has taken a front foot role, not a back foot role. It has become played a front foot role when both executive and legislature, they have dilly-dallied over certain things, and people's problems became voluminous. So from that age, the judiciary looked into the social content and social intent of the Constitution. So the social content and social intent of the Constitution inscribed in the preamble has been looked into, and that has made our constitutional functioning and working of the Constitution and judiciary's instrument or judicial instrument and its use has become more social than political and economic. Thank you very much.
So thank you, sir. You just, I think you very nicely summarized the talk given by Professor Amareswar, Misra. Sir, we have some questions in the chat box. Okay, let me ask directly Brindavan. Brindavan, you can directly ask question to our speaker.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Namaskar, sir. Namaskar, today's dignitaries over this platform, intellectual platform. Sir, actually it is not question, but actually I am always worried about, it is my concern actually. The question is it true to say that the nasty role of multi-party politicians have made our novel ideas of our constitution as static one, and the so-called civil servants have made our constitution operational and dynamic, and in between the judiciary scarcely doing something for the hopeless people?
Sir, you have to unmute. Sir, you have to unmute. Amareswar, sir, you have to unmute yourself. Then you can speak. We can hear.
I got the idea from, there is some disturbances, I got the idea. But the point is that when you look to the role of judiciary, judiciary actually has played a very, very important role. When you talked about the nasty political parties, there is a mushroom growth of political parties. Why political parties are growing? It is because people are forming new political parties for their own vested interest. And with that interest, they try to enter into the power sector. But you would find those political parties actually are finally being purchased by the major parties. They are just creating a division of vote. They are not doing anything more than dividing the vote. So unless we have a clear-cut party system, we have political parties, but no party system in real terms, sense of the term. So therefore, they are playing a very nasty role. But executive and legislature, that is very important, two issues. So where from the executives are the government persons, and government direction is very important behind their functioning. How to function, what to implement, what not to implement, where to remain silent. Legislature is enacting laws. When you look to the legislation, process of legislation, any bill is being introduced. Sometimes it's government forces there behind that. The government wants a bill is to be introduced and is to be adopted and passed. It is being done. So everywhere there is no complete freedom. You can't have a complete freedom as well also. So main thing is that sometimes I told my students many times that suppose an IAS officer will defy, no, this is the rule, I must act as per the rule. What would happen? Now, the answer is the IAS officer wants to stay in the headquarters and do not want to go to periphery and wants to please the government, please the minister, so that he would continue. But if the IAS association, IPS association will come together and say whatever may come, we are paid to protect the people's interest and work for the community, then everything would go on. That is not been there. So you are helpless, I am also helpless. I understand the problem, you also understand the problem. But basic things rise that people who play the role, whether they are, like, look to the judiciary, is judiciary completely independent? Look the process of appointment of the judges. It is said that judges are appointing judges, which has been defined. The judges are not appointing the judges. Even with the collegium system, when recommendations go, it is finally the government either to accept or not to accept, or to delay. How much a delay they will make, there is no limitations to that. So everywhere there are flaws. And we find the constitution with all good spirits sometimes is being faced the bottlenecks and not functioning, that expected function is not there.
Sir, that means we have a fine motor car, but because of our rough driving or careless driving, we have failed to achieve our noble goals. Is it true,
That's
sir?
true. Yeah, you can interpret it in any way you like. No
Thank
problem.
you.
So Rajat, he is asking a question, sir. That my question is, if Indian Constitution follows a federation with strong center, is this center creating hegemony in the states? How can we realize cooperative federalism in present in India?
I understand. When I talk about cooperative federalism, I also refer to that. A strong center, where the concept of strong center comes. When a political party enjoys absolute majority in the house, then you would have a strong center. You cannot have a strong center with coalitional government. A coalitional government is also dependable. But for this year you find, last time also you find the Bharatiya Janata Party with the absolute majority. But they could not also supersede the states. Those are very strong. So question is, if the states would assert themselves in the right path, they will go in right path, the center would be forced to cooperate with them. They cannot ignore. If the states become strong, the center would become strong. That is cooperative federalism. You cannot make the parts of a body weak and feel that the body will work. So therefore, a strong center needs strong states. Together they would work. So that is cooperative federalism. And it would happen because gradually when you do not find one party rule, definitely they are forced to do this. They must come to this. So one party rule age is over. We won't get, because there is no strong opposition. Where is the Congress party? People had a lot of faith that Congress would revive. Congress is not reviving. A national political party, oldest political party, is not reviving. So there are no other national political party to challenge. So if there would be a challenge, then it would be a combination of political parties. So therefore, cooperative federalism would be the future, because you strong center would be possible only when at the center one party would dominate. That is not possible at this particular moment.
Sir, can I ask a question relating to this, answer? That at a time when Congress party was ruling at the center and almost all state government were having the Congress, government. So will you say that at that time that cooperative federalism was there?
It's a very good question. Himanshu, it is a very good question. Why I say, I'll tell you one thing. When Congress was ruling over the states as well at the center, these state level Congress leaders were only yes men of the central government. So they did not dare to challenge the central leadership or central decisions. Therefore, cooperative federalism was not a question of cooperative federalism, it is a question of states succumbing to the central decisions.
Yeah, I got it.
Here, Himanshu, I will add something.
Yeah.
Your question and the recent deliberations all everywhere talks about cooperative federalism. There is no such concept called cooperative federalism, because here cooperative word is used as an adjective. What is federalism? Federalism is an artifact to have two sets of government having share of power with regional autonomy. Well, when you look to the functioning of the state governments in a federal order, we don't have the American pattern where there is a strong center with strong states, and both center and state, they have constitutions. But we must look to our own constitution and the constitution instrumentalities. But we forget about instrumentalities and you talk about governmentalities. So the instruments have gone to the wall and the governmentalities are here. I'm giving one example. National security is always the priority of a country and it resides in the center. The issue of our porous border and the issue of our different kinds of neighborhood available. Government of India at the central government took a decision for activating the border security force in the areas of those states which are exposed to the international border. Is it not the duty of the states to cooperate with the center, because in their own interest, the national government is protecting their international border from infiltration? So when you oppose this is called populism, not popularity. Our constitution suffers from this device of populism. Some states, because of the mask of populism, they are playing to the gallery and they are obstructing the constitutional implementations, and that hijacks the spirit of the constitution from the real federal structure which is provided in the constitution. Good or bad, I am not talking about that, whether it is a center dominated or state dominated. And it's not a fact also that there cannot be a constituent assembly. Article 248 of the constitution empowers that we can, under the residuary power of the constitution given to the parliament, we can convert the parliament into a constituent assembly and write a new constitution. Unfortunately, we have used Saran Singh, we have used Jiban Reddy, we have used Venkat Chaleya, we have used Punthi to give us ideas about constitutional restructuring. We can convert, But unfortunately also, I would say that we should not do that in the present context. You do not have a good parliamentarian system or parliamentary system where you can have the luxury of converting into a constituent assembly to give us a good constitution. We had very good men in the constituent assembly. We cannot get that kind of people. So that is why we have the provision under Article 248, but we cannot have the luxury. So here, cooperative word is not acceptable to me. It's a political use of the term, because cooperative here is, because federalism cannot be, because we had a period of cooperation, we have a period of bargaining, we have a period of conflict. So periods are there. But federalism is a pure term. Federalism is regional autonomy is to be assured and constitutional balance is to be maintained. That is what you must understand. Cooperative federalism is a pejorative for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for this, slight correction. Amareswar, sir, if you want to react to this comment, you can. I mean, academics is all about reacting and acting. Sir, you have to unmute yourself.
Surya is very right, because what he says is really it is true. Because cooperative federalism is a concept grew later on. People used it. But we talked about federalism, and on that basis, we had a federal state, distribution of powers, and accordingly the state and the center have to work. So it's a question of working together. Together is very important. That center has its own power. The center is there to protect the security, as he says, national security. No states should dare to touch any area where the national security would be affected. So therefore, living together, working together, helping each other, sharing power would be the federal principles under our constitution. That is true.
No, sir, I think I agree with Amareswar, sir. I think Amareswar, sir, is giving a new concept. That concept is that a strong center requires strong states, and a strong states requires strong center. And when this is possible, then we can say that this is a cooperative federalism. So,
then Himanshu, analysis of Surya and my analysis.
When we talk about federalism, you cannot hypothesize in a competitive polity like ours.
Yeah.
How can you think about strong states? Strong states means you need a Nabin Patnaik or Uddhav Thackeray or say Mamata Banerjee kind of people, or there are people who need real people's development, social development, economic development of the state. But the question is, strong state means you have to rewrite the constitution, because every state is to function within the ambit of the constitution. Whatever distribution power is laid down in the constitution with amendments here and there, the states must observe. Now the states have become more populist in character, opposing some of the central vistas, opposing some of the central directives, and standing in the way those political parties which were using Central Bureau of Investigation are now opposing the use of Central Bureau of Investigation against others. So these are statements which has nothing to do with the constitutional instrumentalities. The constitutional balance can be there where there is, rightly Professor Mishra said, shared power with regional autonomy. But regional autonomy has been replaced by a new concept called regional aspirations. I am talking about regional autonomy, not aspirations, because aspirations can have of various types. You cannot have like a Stalin, or you cannot have persons who are residing like Mufti Muhammad. So you cannot have. Aspirations are damaging for the constitutional structure. Strong center and strong states within the available constitution now is not at all possible. You may think it, but it's not possible. Already instrument is we have a strong center with weak states. Why? Because we wanted to have a unified country. Considering the situation of 1947 to 49, the vivisection of the country, the plurality of the nature of the society, we have created an artifact where there will be a center. It's a centralized federalism. It's not a kind of American federalism or Canadian federalism. We have to appreciate this. Within this constitution, we have to obey this. And if you do not need such type of federalism, we have to restructure our constitution. You may find what you have suggested, cooperative federalism or strong center with strong states, they will be possible. But within this constitutional framework, where union list is dominant, state lists are dependent, and concurrent list each an area where there should be understanding Article 254 properly. You see, for the only once in our country, President's rule has been imposed on Tamil Nadu under Article 365 of the Constitution, not 356. 365 attracted 356 because Article 365 says whatever central directive comes, administrative instructions, the states have to obey it. It's written in the Constitution. It's not written by Modi. It is written by the Constituent Assembly. And the states did not. You see, before Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, Center warned Tamil Nadu that infiltration of the Tamil militants into Tamil Nadu is dangerous. Take care, seal your borders. Karunanidhi government didn't do that. So when the situation became very volatile, Chandrasekhar's government, which was a very minority government, only having 58 members, imposed president's rule. Surjit Singh Barnala was the governor. He cried that I have not recommended a resolution of the assembly and president's rule. Center said that it is under Article 365 for violations of the directives given by the center. So you fall prey to Article 356, that there is no constitutional governance in the state. So imagine that structure is there within the constitution, but we never use that. We have to use. Mamata government can be kicked out, but what Karunanidhi time was there, now you cannot do this. Because here, populism has gone to a level, if Mamata Banerjee's government will be driven out, and within 6 months we have to create, or within 1 year we have to have an election, Mamata will sweep 100% seats will be occupied by her. So that challenge is there. So the political opportunity and political adventurism, these are two. The opportunity was there, but adventurism is now. So that is why when you look to the constitutional instrumentalities, we must look to the populism part, not to the populism part, but the popularity part. The constitution thrives when it is understood. A constitution thrives when it is respected. A constitution thrives when there is a balance among all the institutions and instrumentalities. That is what is called, your word, I don't accept cooperative federalism. I don't believe in cooperative, because cooperative here is an adjective. Federalism is a cooperation, shared responsibility and regional autonomy. So you have shared power and regional autonomy. You cannot vice versa this, that there will be central autonomy and shared power with the. So that is why whatever distribution of power has been made, it has to be. You see the farm law, the way some of the states, they cried for speaking to the walls. The center had the competence under concurrent jurisdiction. Yes, agriculture is a state law, but the laws which were made not under agriculture, that is under trading. But how many people understand this? And the farming community, did they know what law has been made? Or everybody like that Tikayat, Rakesh Tikayat, everybody is like Rakesh Tikayat, who has a property of 84 crores now. Imagine, the person who has got 84 crores never goes to the field, never know how to plow a decimal of land, has become the political leader of the farming community. We do not understand. That is populism. And that populism could not work. And all these became an act of the government. Government wanted a law before UP election. And government also withdrew that law because of UP election. And in the UP election, Tikayats could not stand, because people could understand that agricultural farm laws are not the issue of the day. The issue is good governance. And issue is development. And Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, they are forget about that. Yogi could win it because Yogi is functioning, assured people and ensure good governance. That is That is what is required in our country. A strong center, strong state concepts are not there. You must have a constitutionally abiding political party and creating a faith in the people in the constitution, and also making people work within the framework of the constitution, not violating the constitution. Jogi did that. Mamata Banerjee got the electoral support because of a new mechanism she adopted. New mechanism, not allowing other political parties to enter into the booth, not allowing other political parties to make programs. Even he didn't allow. Imagine in the previous years, he didn't allow many political leaders to land in West Bengal. Imagine, she had sealed the borders. She has deprived the leadership of the country to share their views with the people. Such type of governance is not required, because Mamata is not the first chief minister. Chief ministers of West Bengal, we had very good chief ministers in West Bengal. What Bengal thinks today, India thinks afterward. That was Dadabhai Nowroji, the grand old man of India. But now, what Bengal thinks today, India cannot think afterwards. That is not Bengal of today, because the Bengali nationalism was very good, but now Bengali regionalism is very harmful for the country. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Surya sir. I mean, for you, federalism is always the bargaining federalism. It cannot be the cooperative federalism.
Bargaining. One thing, order of the day.
Now, I understand it. I understand it very well. But when the reality is always, related with bargaining, I think some form of idealism should also be there in our mind. That's my thought. But let me say one thing.
Put your claim. How you put your claim. How you discuss over the across the table. That is what is required.
Yes, I understand. I understand it. Idealism has its own place. But sir, one thing I must appreciate, that you understand the concept political very well. And the way you relate it with populism, that is something which is, very fantastic. And I personally, enjoyed it. Okay, Brindavan, if you want to, do you want to say something? You have raised your hand.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, would you please throw some light on the particular point? Actually, to whom shall we blame for the overall failure or the evils that are going on today's society? Whether it is the voiceless people, or inefficient people, or the corrupt leaders. To whom shall we blame?
To whom you are asking this question?
Sir, you please tell me.
Achha. I don't think there is any failure. If West Bengal people could not understand the writings on the wall, people of UP have understood. In West Bengal, literacy is more, but in UP, literacy is less. So illiterate people could understand the dynamics, political dynamics of governance, but literate people could not understand. That is my answer.
Amareswar sir, to whom you will blame?
Listen, if you want to blame, you can blame anybody. But the question is, people stand fast. You are primarily responsible. No one is responsible for that. If you are okay, if you contribute your might to the process of governance, process of the government, then everything would be okay. So people stand fast. They are the origin of authority. They are the power. But they must understand how to use the power, how to have a successful governance. That is their role. So if you fail to elevate persons to play such a role, then you can't blame anybody.
Subalterns of UP, they can understand, but the intellectuals of West Bengal, they don't understand. So it is very, very good answer, very good reply by Professor Sujanaran Misra. That's good. Now I think we are at the last part of this event. I hope that we all have enjoyed it. Now I request my student, MPhil student Sanjay Meher, and let me say something about Sanjay. Sanjay has cracked, SSB, lecturer, and subsequently he was also selected as an assistant professor by Odisha Public Service Commission.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
now I request Sanjay to provide vote of thanks to our speaker and to Surya sir as well, because he is also a very important part of today's event. Yes, Sanjay, you can carry on.
Namaskar. Good evening, one and all present here. Respected keynote speaker, Professor Misra sir, and respected resource person, Professor Sujanaran Misra sir, and the convener of this webinar, Dr. Himanshu Sekhar Misra sir. I'm Sanjay Meher.
All Misra. three musketeers.
Yes, yes. I am Sanjay Meher. On behalf of the Realpolitik Pedagogical Discussion team, feel immense pleasure to give a vote of thanks to all who have attended this webinar and help us to making this webinar a resounding success. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to the speaker of our webinar, Professor Amareswar Misra sir, for giving his valuable time and sharing his ideas on the topic working of Indian Constitution, the statics and dynamics. Sir is basically tried to point out it is not an easy task to understand Indian Constitution within 1 or 2 hours, but he tried to touch many aspects of it. First, he told that Indian Constitution is a self-sustaining system. Indian Constitution is basically try to eradicate its evils like an indivisible hand, and he said that it is the fundamental law of the land. It is a document of documents. It is like a dead letter, but it is the political recruitment which makes it operational and functional. And political recruitment happens at the maturity of political socialization, and constitutionalism in the mind of the people, it makes it fruitful to make a country like playing like a sustainable system. So fundamental. It is like fundamental for the governing of the country, and he basically tried to touch the preamble, which is the mirror of the Indian Constitution, soul of the Indian Constitution, as we know. So then I would like to thank to Professor Sujanaran Misra sir, who said many things within a few times. He tried to touch my topic, populism, from popularity to how politicians play demagoguery role to play with the emotions of the people. Then actually I'm grateful to you, sir, for giving your valuable time. Then I would like to thanks to the convener of this webinar, Dr. Himanshu Sekhar Misra, for organizing such a brilliant webinar. Actually, he is doing a great job and took the responsibility for organizing such a series of talk by which our students gaining a lot of knowledge and taking an opportunity to learn from the learned men from different universities. And last but not the least, my deep sense of appreciation and thanks goes to all the participants of this webinar who live with us and attended this webinar with great enthusiasm. Thanks to all. Namaskar.
One concluding observation by me, that we started with 38 others, whatever we are in the vision, and plus 38.
No,
now we're ending with whatever we are here, plus 7.
Let me say that the highest number was 50. Right now it is 15.
But I have not seen 50, but 38. Now it is 7 only.
No, it's okay. Okay, it's okay, not a problem. But the highest was
no.
50,
The
right,
students should take interest. The way you have said that he is organizing, Himanshu, for the last so many months, Every
Since
month,
last
half
6
a
months.
dozen. But you people must cooperate. I've seen people organizing, people are not attending, but he has taken the tenacity of organizing this. Okay, my observation is not relating to the organizational part. You must cooperate with your faculty member who is organizing such nice things for your own benefit. But I will say, concluding observation, without affecting what has been said here, or with due regard to my senior colleague, Professor Misra, that you must remember, while analyzing Indian Constitution, what Ivor Jennings had said. To begin with, he said that Indian Constitution is a social document. So when you look into the working of the Constitution or the functioning of the Constitution, you must look into that from that angle. That is why Professor Misra took the rescue of the using the preamble lavishly. You have mentioned that he has looked into preamble, because unless you look to the preamble, the window to the Constitution lies in the preamble. So how can you talk about the working of the Constitution without looking at the Constitution from a window? And he has used the best window, that is preamble. And that was what Ivor Jennings had said, Indian Constitution is a social document. Thank you.
Let me say that it is also the preface or the preamble is the spirit of the Constitution. You should read the Constitution through its preamble, through its objective and philosophy. So let me thank to Brindaban Nahak. He is the head of the department of Belpahar College, Jharsuguda, and he has been participating. He has been discussing in various web talks conducted by me. So on behalf of everyone, I am thankful to Amareswar Misra sir. I am thankful to Sujanaran sir. And when I think that both were the colleague of Utkal University Political Science Department, then I can see, I can visualize the dynamic political science department of Utkal University, where there are debates, there are disagreements. So
Himanshu, we fight, we quarrel, we agree.
Yeah, I agree. And we agree to disagree also. It's a popular phrase, we agree to disagree. And that is something, the beauty of academics. I always try to develop this among my students and among my colleagues. In some context, I find success. In some context, I fail as well. So thank you one and all. And this is the end of this event. Now I'm stopping the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We are grateful to you.